Welcome to The Burn. We are exploring stories of life and transformation following a breast cancer diagnosis. I'm April Stearns, the founder and editor of Wildfire Magazine and the host of this podcast. A quick note about content. Cancer, as you know, is a salty business, and occasionally we need salty language to really communicate the challenges we face. So know that going in. You might hear a curse word here or there. You might hear sensitive topics from the front lines of cancer's aftermath. Please use your discretion when, where, and how you listen to our stories. And with that, let's dive in. Today, we are going to hear a poem. We don't often have our poets on The Burn, only because poems are shorter than essays. But I truly believe that poetry is best experienced spoken aloud by the author. So I'm very excited about today's guest. The poem you're going to hear is about 4 generations of women and cancer. My guest today is Emily Voreas. She was diagnosed with stage IIIb hormone-positive breast cancer at the age of 33. Emily also carries the BRCA2 gene. She has a master's in elementary education and currently works as a reading interventionist. Being BRCA positive, she is aware of the implications of her family history and has attempted IVF twice unsuccessfully. Her miracle daughter, Callie, is her 7th pregnancy. Emily adores playing mama and chases adventure around her home in San Francisco, spending her free time hiking, swimming, and biking with her family. She is currently writing a book around Callie's nap times, which I will need to hear more about. Welcome to The Burn, Emily. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, April. It's good to be here.
So you are here to read a story, a poem that you wrote called Where Does the Story End? We published this in our 2024 family issue. So after you read, we will chat. Those of you listening, stay tuned to the end for a writing prompt inspired by today's conversation. All right, Emily, I'll let you take it away.
All right. This poem is called Where Does the Story End? Mom had breast cancer and lost her left bosom. Mom accepted radiation and her lung collapsed. Mom retreated, the house silent, the lights dimmed. Mom had breast cancer and illness tinged the air around her. Mom had breast cancer and redesigned her breasts. Mom chose radiation and felt tired, but didn't let on. Mom worked throughout, the house brimming with energy. Mom made cancer appear a mere step up from the common cold. I have breast cancer and ditch both boobs. I celebrate completing chemo with a triathlon. I grow, channeling cancer into a life of exploration. I use cancer to fuel my fire. I hope and pray the story ends with me. Callie is 1.5. What will her story be? The end.
Thank you, Emily. That's such a beautiful poem. I'm excited for us to talk about it.
Me too.
So we'll take a quick break, let you catch your breath, maybe take a sip of water, and we'll hear a testimonial.
Hi, my name is Vanessa, and in 2021, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 44 in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I read Wildfire Magazine and attended a wildfire writing workshop. This led to my story being shared in the magazine, and it felt relieving and inspiring to share my story. Before finding Wildfire, I was struggling with cultural discomfort and isolation. But now I feel like a trailblazer to finally speak about hidden shame so publicly.
All right. Thank you so much for the love, Vanessa. Always like hearing your voice. And now, Emily, I will turn back to you. Thank you again for being a writer of poetry and for being willing to come on and share it. I'm curious if you write a lot of poetry. Like, tell us a little bit about your writing life.
You know, I was not a writer till I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was having a lot of big emotions. So I started writing all sorts of things, diary entries, a blog, some poetry, and it kind of melded into writing a whole memoir over the course of my cancer treatment. Yeah.
That's incredible. Is this the one that you were writing around nap times and just squeezing in here and there?
Yeah, exactly. Whenever Cal went down, and throughout it, I was diagnosed when she was 10 months old, so we were still in multiple naps. And I would just write like a crazy woman to get all my words out as fast as possible.
Oh, I love that. Well, and I know a lot of people who listen to The Burn are writing or aspire to be writing. Did you find that you needed to, continue to keep that inspiration going, or did you have the fuel for the fire the whole way through?
So it started with a deep burn to just get the emotions out on paper. It felt really therapeutic to me to get it down.
Yeah.
But once I had the whole book written and then I had to get into the editing stage, I started really slogging and struggling. Yeah, not a fan of the
Yeah,
editing stage.
it is hard. It's hard to edit your own stuff. So is it done now?
It's done. Yeah. I'm working
Congratulations.
on, I don't know, working on how to get it published is the next step.
Yep, the next big hurdle for
Mhm.
sure. So let's go back to this poem. I'm curious if, as you were going through the experience of being diagnosed and going through treatment, did you feel like every step of the way you were kind of bringing your grandmother and your mom with you? And did you feel that family, quote unquote, legacy the whole way through, or did it kind of come to you later on?
No, I've been aware of it throughout. I've always been aware of cancer my whole life, being BRCA2, and the fact that all the ladies in my family seem to get cancer. But as I wrote in the poem, my grandma made cancer seem like such a scary thing, and therefore my mom
Mhm.
worked so hard to shield it from me. So I always was raised seeing my mom and thinking that cancer really was just like having a cold. So I wasn't that scared of it.
Mm.
So then once I got cancer and realized, oh no, no, this is a big deal. It was kind of a slap in the face. So I've really analyzed it with my mom a lot. We've talked about all the different ways that my grandma, she and I have all handled cancer differently. And it's just been interesting how all three ladies have differed in their experiences. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, and then you have Callie. And so how she was so young when you were diagnosed, but this BRCA, piece will obviously be a part of her legacy. Not necessarily, I mean, she might not be diagnosed with it. I hope not. But, this story of breast cancer is her story too. So, how, knowing, how it was represented to you by these different women, how are you talking about it? How are you planning to share this with her?
That's a good question. BRCA is scary because it really likens your chances of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And it's an adult onset disease. So insurers won't allow you to test children until they're 18 years old. So we won't
Mhm.
know if Callie is a carrier till she's an adult. And I don't want her to be scared. I don't want her to
Yeah.
live her life in fear, just like my mom did. But on the other hand, it is huge and scary, and I definitely want her to go get tested before the norm. So I think I'll really push her to see to be safe, to test herself but not be scared is my goal. Just be on top of things. Just
Right.
really type A planner is my goal for Cal.
Yeah, be educated and empowered. How old were you when you found out that you carried the gene?
I was 18, right when I was allowed to go
Okay.
get tested. I wanted to get on birth control. And so my mom and I both went and got tested at the same time.
Oh, wow. That's interesting to have that experience then together.
Yeah. It was,
Mm,
fine. My mom had already had breast cancer, and because her mom had had it, we assumed, and we are also Ashkenazi Jew, so it definitely runs in the blood. Um,
sure.
but it was helpful to know, and then I was on top of screening. Not that it helped me, but I was on top of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a whole nother part. And you'll be able to talk to Callie about that too. Like you can have all the information and life can still throw lemons your way, but it
Yes.
makes for more um you have options when you are aware of them. You have more of them when you are
Yes.
aware of them. And also, science is going to continue to advance and change. And I know a lot of us in the wildfire community have young children, and we're juggling this idea of the implications to them. And my daughter's 16 now, and it does give me solace to know that, if she ever develops breast cancer, it's going to be a totally different story than it was for me. And, I did have a grandmother who also had a cancer experience, and treatment was available for me that wasn't available for her. So it's always changing. And that's where I find hope personally.
I agree. And every year we're having new advances. I really hope it's less scary
True.
in years.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Well, let's talk about another aspect of your story, and this is the fertility piece, the IVF piece. And I just want to say upfront that I'm so grateful to you for being open to talking about it. Can you share a little bit of what this experience has been like for you?
Absolutely. I've got a long and winding road to having Callie as my daughter. I knew I had BRCA2 when I was 18 years old. So when I went and started talking family planning with my doctor, she recommended we start with IVF because you can test the embryos and then implant an embryo that does not have BRCA2. And I thought, that sounds fabulous. If we can cut this out of the genetic legacy of my family, great. So we started with IVF even before I tried to get pregnant. We had 3 embryos. We implanted the first one. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. So I think around like 29-ish, thinking I'd get pregnant in an instant. And it worked. And I told everyone the minute it implanted that I was pregnant. And then maybe a week later, I had a miscarriage. It's called a chemical pregnancy when it just works for a minute. And I was blown away at how heartbreaking it was, even though I was only pregnant for a week, because I had already planned my entire future in that 1 week, right? Like
Yeah.
I knew her name, I had her future. I was a teacher, so I had planned it all out perfectly to summer break when the baby would be due. Like I'm a type A planner and I was ready. And I was just absolutely gobsmacked, just destroyed when we had that first miscarriage.
Mm.
But then, we picked ourselves up again. We did another implant. And again, we had a chemical pregnancy. So then it was COVID times. And my doctor was like, you know what? Life is hard enough with COVID. You want to just try the old fashioned way, like not IVF. You got one, keep it on ice. Let's just try. And I said, oh my God, but what about BRCA? And she said, just like we had talked about earlier, like, hey, it's an adult onset disease and you never know where science is going to go in the next few
Mm.
years. Why don't you just try to get pregnant and you deal with BRCA later down the road? So we started trying the old fashioned way and it worked. It turns out I'm really good at getting pregnant. Then we had a miscarriage and then I got pregnant. We had a miscarriage. And I am so good at getting pregnant, just not staying pregnant.
Oof.
Um,
Yeah.
so fast forward, I had one late term pregnancy that we did genetic testing on. I don't know if you want, is it okay to talk about
Yeah.
abortions
Yes,
podcast?
please.
So,
Absolutely fine.
we did genetic testing and it was the holidays and it got stuck up in the lab and it took weeks to get back. Anyway, it was a micro deletion that would have been not compatible, maybe life, but not a happy life. So we decided
Mm.
to terminate. But then there's the holidays and it took forever to schedule the termination. And I think it was 19 weeks when we did an abortion. It's called termination for medical reasons.
Yeah.
So that was worse than my first miscarriage. Very
I
bad.
bet. I
Not good.
bet.
Um, some details, I had hyperemesis throughout that whole pregnancy. So that's when you're vomiting and need to be hospitalized to get enough fluid and nutrients in. So I
Oh,
remember,
Emily.
oh, I don't know. I need to go make your readers hear my whole pregnancy journey. It wasn't fun.
No.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had another pregnancy that I didn't terminate naturally. So I had to do a DNC after that one at
Mhm.
10 weeks. Anyway, Callie was pregnancy number 7 and it worked. She's again natural old-fashioned pregnancy. And I had hyperemesis again for Callie. So
Okay.
I vomited up to 20 weeks. So it was good that it
Oh,
stopped. But
Yeah, for
we got
sure.
there. Oh, we have Callie. Yeah.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
my
Hard fought child right there. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well,
yeah.
I'm just thank you so much for sharing all that. You've really been through the ringer when it comes to fertility
Mhm.
and you're pregnant again.
Yes.
How is it going?
Um, the week after I was diagnosed, I went back to my old IVF clinic and I said, "Hey, I need to start IVF like tomorrow because I need to start chemo. I'm already late." And she said, "Okay,
Yes.
get in the next day." So I started IVF 24 hours after contacting my old IVF clinic.
Mm.
Um, so we pulled out embryos and I cannot believe it, but we got, I think, 4 embryos from that round,
Oh,
which is just so lucky for people that do IVF.
amazing.
That's so
Yeah. Whew.
you know? Anyway, and then I contacted a surrogacy agency after my first week of chemo.
Wow.
And
There's that type A planner again, huh?
you're like, "You wanna wait a little bit? Like, it's kind of soon." And I said, "No, no, no, no. I had plans. Let's go." So yeah, we implanted and we're due in I think we're 29 weeks right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, you look great. You sound great. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling so good.
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah.
so glad. I'm so glad. Wow, I love all that. So, okay, another aspect of your story that I'm aware of that wasn't mentioned in your poem is that you are flat. You chose aesthetic flat closure following your mastectomy, and you are an advocate for living flat and choosing flat. Tell me about being an advocate for flat.
I am a strong flatty advocate. Um, I have a public Instagram page and I post videos and pictures of myself topless all the time because when I was trying to figure out what to do, I was only presented with reconstruction. No one told me flat
Mm-mm.
was an option. I found it on my own. And then I started doing research and I had a really hard time finding role models who had the same body type as me.
Mm.
Um, I'm an athlete. I'm young. I was very confident in my body and I had a hard time picturing what it would look like without breasts. And so I think it's very important to have more topless photos out there of people that are strong and confident and feel sexy without breasts. So that's my goal is just to put it out into the world and be like, "Hey, you can walk around and feel completely like a woman without breasts."
Of course, of course.
Mhm.
And so you swim masters topless. Tell
Yes.
me about that. And I'm guessing you're the only one on your team, probably, but maybe not.
Yes, I swim on a master's team. I've always been a swimmer. And the first time I swam without a top, I thought, let's just try it, because I swim so many miles and the swimsuit kind of cuts into your skin. So let's just try no top. And I felt so free. So now I swim topless and no one says anything. They just come up and give me a big hug when they see me. No one cares at all.
Wow. No, and why would they? I mean, they shouldn't, right? But so you have this family legacy of breast cancer. Are you aware of what surgical choices your mother and your grandmother made?
Yes, my grandmother went she did a full unilateral mastectomy. She
Hmm.
was not offered reconstruction, and she was always extraordinarily self-conscious of her uniboob. So she
Mm.
wore prosthetic on one side her entire life and
Okay.
was very self-conscious about it. And I remember my mom still talks to this day about how self-conscious she was about her body.
Mm.
My mom did a double mastectomy and did a deep flap reconstruction.
Okay.
She was also only given, um, let's see, silicone or saline implants as an option, and she pushed back and said, "I don't feel comfortable putting these foreign materials in my body," and so a deep flap was an option for her.
Mm.
So I always assumed that deep flap was the way I wanted to go because I agreed that it felt a little uncomfortable to me, the idea of putting foreign materials into my body. But then when I went to the doctor, they said deep flap wasn't an option. I didn't have enough skin and body fat to do that. So
Okay.
that's why I said, "Oh, wait, I don't like silicone or saline."
Hmm.
Hmm.
Right, right. Yeah, it's so interesting because so you may or may not know this, but I live half flat. I had a unilateral mastectomy and chose aesthetic flat closure. And kind of like your grandmother, I did wear a prosthetic for the first 5 years. I'm 12 years out now. So I've been living just out in the world, half flat for about 7 years now. But it was only after I had my surgery that I realized my grandmother was half flat. And because it was not a topic we talked about, I don't know if she felt uncomfortable about it, but it wasn't on the table. We didn't actually talk about her cancer at all either. But it was interesting seeing myself in the mirror, seeing how my shirt fell, and realizing, oh, I recognize this. Like I know what this is. And it was a really nice moment for me. And I kind of wish that she could be here now to see that I am comfortable and that people are okay with it and things have changed. And another thing I've learned too is that we can make changes to the choices that we make in the emergency of cancer, and a lot of people do have their implants taken out and decide to either go then for deep or go then for flat. I've seen people go from flat to implants. Like people are making all kinds of different changes. And I think that's something we don't think about when we're in cancer, right? It feels like every decision we're making is just it's permanent. And a lot of them are. I do this all the time on the burn. I don't know what my question is for you, Emily. I'm just sharing that experience, but I'm wondering if any of that resonates for you.
It does. And something I've been thinking about a lot is how through the generations, it seems like each generation is getting more vocal about it. And therefore, we
Yeah.
have more insight. In our grandmother's generation, cancer was something to be embarrassed about. And
Right.
you didn't talk about it. And like even women's bodies, right? You didn't talk about women's bodies. You just kind of covered it up and you had the one model that you should look like. And then my mom talks about how she felt like my grandma was so, in the closet about breast cancer. But then when she looks at me, she feels like she was in the closet compared to how I am just running around, swimming without a top on, having a public Instagram, and I just shout it to the rooftops. And she says she thought she was open, but it turns out that each generation is building on, those steps of the last one. And we're just opening the doors to the next,
Mhm.
which I think
Exactly,
is
and
empowering.
it really is, and I think we're deciding what the things that happen to us and the things we experience, what pieces of them we want to take on as part of our identity. And there are empowering aspects to it, like choosing to be an advocate, for a surgical choice and showing what that can look like and what living like that can look like. Or, advocating for detection of gene mutations and what that opens up and things like that. So yeah, I'm grateful to be living at this time where we are shedding some of that shame and realizing that we it's okay to say aloud the things that have happened to us. It helps us connect to others and have a fulfilling life. And no shade on anyone who chooses not to do that. But I appreciate that we live at a time now where we can choose this and we can choose to live out loud and have our pain become our purpose.
Exactly. And, it's not just pain though.
Yeah.
If you just live by yourself and you don't talk about it, I think you get kind of enmeshed in your pain. But when you're vocal in
Mm,
the community, you're like, yes, this sucked, but also I'm stronger and more powerful. And there's
that's
kind of a
right.
beautiful silver lining as well that you might not see when you're quiet about it.
True, true. It's harder to find the lessons and the transformation when you aren't talking about it or maybe you aren't writing about it. So yeah, huge fan of, digging into the story and seeing what's there and also giving it grace to unfold because it can take a long time too.
Exactly.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for being here with me. Is there any aspect of your story we didn't touch on that you wanted us to talk about today?
I think we covered all of it. Thank you.
We've been all over. Well, I hope that you will continue to write poetry. I loved the imagery that you shared in it. I'm excited about your memoir. Do you want to share the title of it?
At the moment, it's type 2 fun, but you never know with titles. They might change.
That's true. And it's hard to title something like that. And what about your online presence? Where can people find you if they want to follow along?
Well, please come follow along. I'm flat and fierce. So it's flat with an N in the middle and then fierce.
Perfect. Well, we will link to you in our show notes, and people can turn there to find, pictures, transcripts, et cetera, et cetera. So that's at wildfirecommunity.org. My guest today has been Emily Voreas. The poem that Emily read was called Where Does the Story End? And this is in our 2024 family issue. If you guys haven't seen it yet, please do check it out from our archives. Thanks again, Emily.
Thank you.
Well, I'm April Stearns, and you've been listening to The Burn. The Burn's a production of Wildfire Magazine, where we share breast cancer stories from young people like you've never read or heard before. We also strive to inspire you to write your story like you've never written it before. Stay to the end for a writing prompt inspired by today's episode. Our producer is Bill Smith of Shoe Production, and our production assistant is Monica Haro. If you want more on the life-changing transformation to be had from telling your breast cancer stories, please visit us at wildfirecommunity.org. You'll find a copy of the issue shared in today's episode. You can find our archives, and you can take a writing workshop with me. There's no place on the planet like a wildfire writing workshop, and I want you to experience it for yourself. Discover how to write your way back to yourself, write your way to reclaiming your body and your story. And don't forget to subscribe to The Burn and listen to it wherever you go. If you would leave me a 5-star review, I would be forever grateful. All right, you've made it to the writing prompt portion of our episode. As always, I want you to set your timer. I always set mine for 8 to 20 minutes. You can choose anything in there. I usually say 8 here on The Burn. But mostly I just want you to write without stopping, because that's when the magic happens. That's when things come out that you didn't know needed to come out. So your prompt today is, where does it end? Where does it end? Write without stopping, see what needs to come out and where it will take you. And if you find that you write best with a good prompt, I've got tons more for you along with writing lessons over at wildfirecommunity.org/free. Happy writing. Thanks for listening. Until next time, take good care.